Hello and welcome to the next episode of Procreate for Beginners. In the last 3 episodes, we have talked about the tools and the basic things you need to get started with Procreate. In this episode, we'll talk about a basic workflow, or specifically my workflow of how I do things in Procreate and how you can adapt it and create things. So let's get started. The first thing you need to choose is a canvas size. So if you click on this plus button, you'll see a bunch of options for canvas. If you're just going to do it for social media and not for prints, you can go with a Instagram square size of 1080 by 1080. If you're going to have prints in future, you can choose a bigger size like 2000 by 2000 or 4000 by 4000. So I'll just keep it simple and go with the 1080 by 1080 for this video. So after I create a canvas, the first thing I do is start sketching. But before that, you need to know, or you need to have an idea of what you are going to sketch or draw. For this case, I'm going to redraw my Figma tutorial, one of my famous Figma tutorials on YouTube. So what I do is I'll click on this wrench icon, click on canvas and click on reference. This opens up the reference panel here. So I'll click on image and I'll import the image of my tutorial. So now this way I have a visual reference of what I want to create. Now there are a few options when choosing your reference in Procreate. What you can also do is click on this wrench icon and click on add and insert a photo. This way when you insert a photo, it will place here on your canvas, and then you can go to the layers, click on this N and reduce the opacity. Then what you can do is create a new layer and then draw on top of it. So I don't like doing it this way because that's just essentially tracing. You can do it for practice purposes, and you shouldn't do it especially if the reference is not your own. In this case, I have created this image myself, so I can trace it and even sell it commercially. But if you're taking a reference from the internet, you should not just trace it. So let me undo, and I'll just keep my reference in the reference panel. So next thing I like to do is go to the wrench icon again, go to canvas and click on drawing guide. This way I get a grid and I have a basic idea of straight lines and a grid size. Then go to edit drawing guide and then you can adjust the size of the grid. So this is going to be an illustration, so I guess this grid size is good. You can also increase or decrease the thickness and change the opacity here. I like to keep it to 30% and the thickness to 50% so it doesn't interrupt that much, and click on done. So let me adjust my reference and then we can start drawing. So what I like to do is select layer 1, rename it to a rough sketch or just a rough. So then I use the sketching and the 6B pencil from the sketching brush pack and I sketch with that. So let's start roughly sketching in. So the first layer is a very loose sketch and I don't usually care about the lines and the quality of it. It's just like a thumbnail sketch. It's just to give an idea of how or where the things are going to be placed in the scene. This is going to be a rough sketch. Next thing I do is go to the layers, click on this N and reduce the opacity of the rough layer. Then create a new layer. So since we have a basic idea of where the things are going to be placed, next thing we can do is draw clean lines or a clean sketch. Then I'll move to layer 2 and rename it to clean layer. Then while using the same 6B pencil, I'll create a clean sketch. So let's start with the base. So while drawing straight lines, Procreate has this neat feature where you draw a line and keep holding the pencil, it will draw a straight line for you. So let's say you draw something like this and you keep holding, it will draw a straight line for you. So this is really beneficial if you want to draw perfectly straight lines. If you want to keep that organic or natural look to it, you can just draw them freehand. So when you approach a step where you have to create a perfect sphere like this moon in the background, You can draw a sphere like this on this layer, but you will have to erase the lower part of it. So what we'll just do is we'll create a new layer and I will draw a circle on that. Hold the end of the pencil and we'll see an ellipse is created. If at this point you tap with one finger and hold it on your screen, it will make the ellipse into a perfect circle. So this is while I'm not holding the screen, and this is while I'm holding the screen. So you'll see it converts it into a perfect circle. So I'll just make it this size, and then you can click on this edit shape at the top and you can move it freely. I'll use the move tool at the top and reduce the size of the moon. So this way we have the moon on its own layer and it will not interfere with the front of the drawing. So now we have all the clean sketch ready. So let's now move to the next part, that is the line art. So we'll go to the layers and reduce the opacity of the layers. At this stage I'll just hide the rough layer so it doesn't interfere with the line art part. Let's create a new layer and rename it to line art. Now at this point I'll use a black color to ink it. So we'll use the inking section and you can use any brush from here that you like. If you want to have a tapered feel, you can use the studio pen or the technical pen. If you want to have pretty much the same line thickness, you can go to the calligraphy section and use this monoline brush. It will give you nice and uniform lines. But with the inking section and let's say studio pen, you will get a taper in the lines with the pressure sensitivity as you want. So depending on the art I am creating, sometimes I like to use the monoline brush and sometimes I like to use the studio pen or the technical pen. For this illustration I'll be using the monoline brush from the calligraphy section. So by default the monoline brush is not so smooth or a little jagged. So what I do is click on the monoline brush and go to stabilization and increase the stabilization to let's say 50% and decrease the streamline to 30%. This way I'll get a control over the pen also while the curves are smooth. So while on the line art layer, let's start the line art. You can either completely zoom in close to the drawing to create detailed parts or small parts like this stack of wood, or you can be completely zoomed out and work it from a bigger picture perspective. So at this point we have our line art ready and we are ready to color in. So there are a few ways you can color in your drawing. You can just select colors from here and choose a brush from painting like the round hard brush and you can start coloring in with it. Next thing you can do is, while being on the same line art layer, you can click and drag the color and it will fill in the space or the boundary that is enclosed. But how I like to do is go to the layers panel, click on the line art layer and make it a reference layer. You will see that it has a reference below its name. So click on it and click on reference. Now go to the layer beneath it and click on new layer. So you want to create a layer below the line art layer. Now if you drag and drop any color on this layer, you will see that it stays within the boundaries of the line art layer, but it is a different layer, so we can turn it on and off at any time. You can also do the same thing on the line art layer itself, but this way you cannot turn the color off if you want to. So I prefer to keep it on a separate layer using the reference feature. So I'll just clear the layer. So we have a clean line art now. So let's color pick from our reference and drag and drop the colors. Let's drop in this color for the moon, and you can also drag left and right to set the color threshold. So if I move it to 100%, you will see that it goes out of the lines and into the full picture, but I don't want to keep it outside the line, so I'll just drag it to around 50% so it stays in. Next you can click on continue filling with recolor. So now if you move your cursor to anywhere in the screen, it will fill the same color in that spot. So you tap on it to confirm the color. You drag and drop the cursor anywhere you'd like and you tap to confirm it. When you've done filling in one color, you can move to another color. You can keep it on the same layer also or on a different layer also. So how I like to do is, I like to think of the color layers as different stacks or sheets. So we have the moon on its own layer, so let's make another layer below it. I'll color select from here and drag and drop the color from the color panel. Let's keep doing this until we have colored all our piece. Keep in mind, you don't always need a reference to color pick your colors. You can always go to the color wheel here and choose your colors here. For this piece, since I've already done it, so I'm just picking colors from the ones I have done before. So let's just go to the layers once, click on the background layer and add a light blue color to the background. Then let's see what's the benefit of using this color method involving different layers. So let's say you are on the trees layer and you don't like the color of the trees. So if you had all the things on the same layer, you cannot just adjust the color of the trees if you want to with ease. Definitely you can select the trees and change the color, but it's a lot harder to do that way. If we have it on a separate layer, what you have to do is just go to this second tool or the adjustments panel, click on hue, saturation, brightness. Now if you move the hue slider, you can see just the color of the trees changing. So if I want, say, a different environment with blue trees, and let's do the same for the tent and the firewood also, go to the adjustments, click on hue, saturation, brightness and move the slider, so we'll see the color of the tent changing also. So let's say I just want to change the color of the tent and not the firewood. So what I do is go out of the hue saturation tool, click on double tap to undo and use this selection menu or the third option in our toolbar. I close the reference for now. So what you do is you go to the selection menu or the third tool and you click on this freehand tool and make a selection like this surrounding the tent. So you'll notice that we also have the tree and the moon in this section and the foreground also, but since this layer only has the tent and not the other things won't be affected if we select and change the hue saturation of this. So now that we have it selected and we have the proper layer selected, go to the adjustments panel and hue, saturation, brightness, and now if you move the slider, you can see we are changing just the color of the tent. So let's say we like this color, so let's keep it here. Now let's go to the foreground layer and let's adjust it. And you can not only just change the hue, you can also change the saturation and the brightness. So this way you are free to experiment with your colors as much as you like without ruining the whole piece or without too much effort. So if we just undo, we can go back to our original colors. At this point you can decide to keep it, leave it here and finish it, or what you can do is you can go to the line art layer, make a new layer above it, tap on the new layer and click clipping mask. So what this does is, if you select say any color, let's say you select a brown color, when you color in, it will only color on the line art without actually coloring on the line art layer. So if we turn off the clipping mask, you will see that it has color all over the place, but if we turn on the clipping mask, it will make the color appear only where there is color on the bottom layer or the reference layer. So this way you can color your line art also without damaging your original line art layer. So let's say you want to give it a cohesive look and you want to color in the line art also, so you can go like this and color brown on the tent part, and you can color a dark green on the trees. This is how you can cover the line art layer. So let's take a look at the layer without the clipping mask. So if I remove the clipping mask, it looks something like this, which is a total mess. But if I click on it, the layer again and click on clipping mask, you will see that it turns into a beautiful colored line art thing without having to color on the original line art layer. So if I remove the layer, I still have the black line art. If I enable the layer, I have the colored line art. So you can choose and decide whichever you want. So this is how I create or illustrate in Procreate, and this is a basic process you can also follow to create your drawings in Procreate. So I hope this video helped you to get a basic idea of how you can start with Procreate and start creating awesome stuff. I hope you liked it, and I'll see you in the next one.